We need a better system. Most of the time, that's often an ownership problem with insufficient capacity. One of these questions is going to hit and land in your heart, in your mind, or in your wallet. What if you've been working on the wrong thing this past year? And it's not wrong because you're incompetent, wrong because you don't care. It's genuinely wrong because you're chasing the wrong business constraint, as Dr. Gum was just alluding to. So, we're here in DFW. So the oil and gas business is really, predominant here in DFW or in Texas in general, rather. If you had one chance to drill for oil, what would be the one thing that would determine your probability of success? We'd have to ensure that there's some oil down there, right? Because it doesn't matter how far you drill, how hard you work, how many hours that you pour into it. If there's no oil there to begin with, then your actions are futile. So that is what the whole goal of this is to truly try to say, okay, instead of looking at, have you been working on the wrong thing? It's saying, let's really pinpoint and make sure that the thing that you're going to work on is the thing, and that there's enough meat and enough fruit for you to actually reap a harvest at the end of that. I can't tell you how many coaching calls I've listened to or how many of the doctors in this room. I've literally sat with doctors in this room this past week of where, and you might be able to relate to this, right? You may think that you may have just hired 3 associates. I'm not going to pinpoint anyone specifically in the room, but you maybe have just hired 3 new associates this past year while you're leaking, customers out the back door. You may, be so proud of a new marketing system that you just put together and it's performing, but yet your team is falling apart, right? So these are the things that we're trying to look at. At the end of the day, so many of you are brilliant. You have so much information in front of you. There's a ton of you in here that have been to multiple seminars, regardless if it's with Blueprint or other organizations. You might have a wish list of, hey, I have 2,000 seminars saved that if I could just go through that, or I follow 10 gurus on Facebook and Instagram, and I listen to all their content. This definitely isn't church or a church conference, but I will say in the Bible it says, be not hearers of the word only, but doers of the word. And so that's what I want to challenge you on is, what are you doing with the knowledge that you've gained? You might be sitting there and you're like, how is this all going to come together? And you might feel nervous in this day and age, because I will tell you that there's a lot of sand that has changed right up under your feet. And it has to deal with the fact that we are in a great content flood currently. So we are not lacking information. Knowledge has been commoditized, but the fact is that implementation hasn't. Look at a couple of these stats. 90% of online content will be AI generated by the end of this year. 74% of new web pages contain AI generated content. There's over 2.5 billion ChatGPT prompts processed every single day. 48%, have y'all seen this now? If you do a Google search, 48% of the Google searches now show AI overviews of where you don't even click a link anymore, right? Have y'all seen that? So the question is like, you could put into any AI platform, say, what should I do about marketing? Your front desk could say, what would be the best way to follow up with leads? I don't care if you sit there and study it all day. The one that perfects the implementation, the one that takes action and executes at scale systematically, those are the ones that are going to win. You have to get to action. We have to drive implementation. So with this new coaching model, that was one of the things that we were challenging ourselves with. It's like, okay, the ones that are thriving, the ones that are most successful within the BPA community, is it because they know more? Or is it because they execute what they know consistently and predictably at scale? And it was the latter. So then that's where we challenged ourselves to say, all right, what got us to this point is not going to take us to the next stage. And we have to now focus on It should just be a given that we're giving you high quality, compiled information that is being fed and informed by over 3,000 BPA chiropractors that have been within our community. We should have those collective insights to be able to inform you, and you know that the knowledge is sound. Now, where's the value? Like, the knowledge should be a given. Now, where do we actually bring value? And that is the implementation. So, if you look at this slide, 12%, this was a huge study across over 200, it was like 221 of the largest online courses. 12% was the median completion rate. And these were courses that people paid more than $1,000 for. I wanted to just have like at least a high ticket for an analysis. So it wasn't just a free course, but only 12% completion rate. Now look at the next one. The ones that actually put coaching and accountability in with that, the completion rate was 70%. So that is our goal here, is to help drive more of that implementation and the accountability with the coaching model. During the day, we're going to go through, Dr. Hennessy is going to be the very first presenter. He's going to be the speaker right up after me. And we're going to go through the 5 constraints. He's going to cover marketing. What I want you to be listening to is, let me just read these questions. And as you're sitting there, one of these questions is going to hit and land in your heart, in your mind, or in your wallet harder than others. So when it comes to marketing, condensed is, can you generate a reliable, predictable flow of new patients? Sales, can you consistently convert interested prospects into committed patients? Customer success, do patients complete care, refer, and return? Operations, does your practice run without you creating the results? And then team, do you have the right people doing the right things? So just at a first glance, even without us going into detail, you can already, I guarantee you that you could start nailing it down with about 40 to 50% certainty. But our goal is to help you, at least at the end of the day, at least have a best guess of what you're locking in as your constraint and your primary focus for tomorrow. If you're a table that does not have any, please raise your hand. All right, is there anyone on our team that can assist with that? Miss Connie, there's a couple tables that don't have examples of playbooks. Yeah, for now, if someone could just, if you have multiple examples at your table, we do have extras. I know that we have plenty, so we'll make sure it's not enough for every single person to take one, but we try to have 3 at each table. So I want you to take time to be able to look at that, go through that and look at this. Every one of them is built in the exact same format. So here's what you're going to find. We broke it down into 3 aspects of every single playbook. So it's why, like why this playbook exists, how, and then what is done defined as. So under the why, it's going to say, here's the purpose, here's why this playbook exists. When to use it, you'll see the exact breakdown of when to use this type of playbook, what the common mistakes are while implementing this playbook, what the core content is of the playbook, case studies, and for the ones taking, I see a couple taking pictures of this. If you look at the example playbook, there's a table of contents, and it breaks it down even better than what the slide does on the example playbook. So on the how, it's, okay, now here are the core components of what actually needs to be implemented within this playbook. Here's the implementation plan, what the weekly rhythm would be off of that playbook, the KPIs that you would be tracking associated with that playbook, and even definitions with applicable examples. And then where the true value lies is in the done portion. There is a robust implementation checklist now. So when we say, implement a CRM, you're like, okay, what? Your definition of implementation, her definition of implementation, my definition, it's all across the board. So we're trying to give you robust implementation checklists that you would be able to walk through with your coach and it'd give your team some clarifying direction. The next one is coaching accountability questions. You'll see right in front of you the questions that your coach is most likely going to ask you on your calls. So it will help you be prepared, and you can even proactively ask those questions as well. Everyone gets a workbook, but on the playbooks, there's just a few of the we wanted just a couple examples for you to see what they look like, because we're just giving high-level overviews and going through them fairly quickly during this event. So then, last but not least is the completion standard. So at the end of implementing this playbook, especially if you've been working directly with the coach, they would go through what that completion standard is and say, okay, just want to verify with you, this is the case. You have the people that are owning this, you have this done. And so that is what the completion standard will be that they will go through. I want to show you, this is a huge study. Again, want to just try to state the case as to why we were able to justify such a big shift in our coaching model. And it was a huge uplift for us operationally to put in place. But at the end of the day, there's a 788% average return on investment when you have executive coaching in place. A couple other huge studies. So like I just said, 7 times return on average. Mentored entrepreneurs like yourself are 2 times more likely to reach that 5-year maturity or survival rate within your business. 92% of small business owners say that coaching directly impacts their growth. And these are the largest consulting firms in the world. And so please lean into it. We're here to serve you. You need less advice. You need more support and direction on how to actually implement. Like if you ask Michael Jordan how to be a successful basketball player, and they said you need to practice and you need to score more and you need to be best on defense and receive MVPs, you're like, that's amazing, but how? How did you get to that point? Like rarely do we talk about the form and the tactical ways in which we achieve those milestones. So as a doctor, who believes that treating your patients successfully hinges on a correct diagnosis of your patient? Please, I better see every hand as doctors. To properly treat your patient, it is dependent upon an accurate diagnosis of that patient. Now, here's the reality. Every one of you in the room, you're also CEOs. So, as a business owner, who believes that the way to successfully treat your business is to properly diagnose your business? Right? Everyone else should raise your hand as well. So that is the goal today. We're trying to properly diagnose your business, and that should directly correlate with your mindset as a doctor. So there's a difference between feel and real. So what it feels like is rarely what's actually limiting you. You may say, all right, it feels like we need more leads, but what it most likely is like often sales is the problem and you're leaking before even booking. You're not following up. If we dug into it, you have 4 days on average that it takes for you to follow up with a lead. It might feel like, your team doesn't care, but most of the time it's often an ownership problem. So there's unclear scorecards. People don't know who owns what. Everybody owns everything, and so nobody owns anything. Patients aren't committed. That's what it might feel like. Often that's an education problem. Lastly, we need a better system. Most of the time that's often an ownership problem with insufficient capacity. So this 3% number, and this is my next to the last final slide. Does anybody know I just looked it up this past week, the current number of active chiropractic clinics in the country right now? What would you say your guess? Anybody guess at this table? It's right there at 70,000. So it's like 68,000 is the estimate right now. So of those 68,000, by the way, it is still showing a 9% growth year over year. Of those practices, right now it is saying that only 3% of them are actually saying that they're operating at full capacity. So that's what you're in the room today, and that's what I challenge you to be this weekend, is to be part of that 3%. Let's help you reach capacity. That doesn't mean you're working, that doesn't mean you're having to work more, that you're working intentionally and more, and even better, we are not just throwing content, we're throwing content and direction with a finish line. As a business owner, and by the way, I can 100% relate to this. Does anyone ever feel like they're on a treadmill and they never see a finish line? Ever? So that's one of the things that these playbooks do. You get a finish line. Now, would you ever have to go back and potentially readdress a playbook? Yes. And you stretch that finish line out a little bit further with a little grander approach, but it's going to be much faster for you to execute and go through that playbook because you've already laid down the whole foundation. So we give you finish lines. That at the end of the day, that's what we're driving towards and helping you drive towards implementation. So at the end of the day, everyone's gonna go through all of these 5 constraints today. And then at the end of the day, the goal is to be able to decide and lock in at least your primary constraint that you say, this is where my focus is gonna be this weekend. And I challenge you to have it on the tip of your tongue, have it on the tip of your brain. And the whole saying of when the student is ready, the teacher appears. When you're having these side conversations and the dialogue with your peers, ask those questions. Walk away with something. Walk away with guidance from your peers and then a direct implementation plan from our coaches. So the other thing that I would tell you is they are going to go through, and if you turn to page 22, so this is where my talk has begun. So we've already covered that content. But they're going to start going through and they'll ask you a series of 5 questions that's helping you diagnose whether or not this is a constraint of yours. And then there's 5 KPIs that's associated with it as well. But at the end of the day, it's on you after looking at those 5 questions and those 5 KPIs to grade yourself during this workshop on if it's a 1, if you score yourself a 1, that's low, that means that there's a major gap in this constraint. After answering those questions, if you score a 5, that's the max, you say that, hey, you have very strong systems in place based on what we've asked you and those KPIs associated. At the end of the day, then we'll go through another workshop. You'll look at the scores that you've been given yourself, and then that will help at least inform your decision of what constraint that you've locked in.